Welcome to the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is Spirit Session Podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. All right, everybody, welcome to Spirit Sessions. And I say it every week, and it's not a lie. And that is that I'm really, really happy to be here and excited about what is happening today. And in fact, this is like really, really different. We have a whole host of goddesses. TaKisha has just joined us, a whole bevy of beautiful women who are joining me on Spirit Session podcasts, who are a lot of things, and they're going to tell you more about themselves and their journey. But what they are to me are all women who I really respect and have all done our program, the Shakti School, and they are currently the coaches that are talking to women all over the world who are interested in what we're doing over here in this sort of secret club that we have going. And today I have Dominique, Eva, Laurie, Malia, Natalie, Jackie, and TaKisha joining us today on Spirit Sessions. And I'm gonna flip the script and I'm gonna be as quiet as I can be and just throw out some questions for them. And how I think we're going to navigate this is if you feel like you want to answer, just throw up your hand and I'll open that door and we'll dive into it. And so I think the most important question that I get asked when I do podcasts that touches my heart is like, why did you get started on this journey into what I guess we could call self-awareness, healing, wanting to know who I am and what I'm meant to be doing here in the world. And so I think we should just kick it off. What got you started in your own healing journey? Yeah, maybe I'll just call your names because I know y'all are all talkative. All right, Malia, you need to start this off because you are the OG. This is Malia, right, you all? Malia was doing Shakti before it even had a name. So, Malia, like even beyond Shakti School, and I'm so excited to talk to you because it's been way too long. And like, I'm curious, what started this journey off for you?
Well, I love this so much. I feel like everyone has their own story. And this is what I love talking to people in Shakti School and also on these calls, because everyone has their own unique story. But I always joke about this because I remember I used to live in New York, and I think, Katie, you probably have some very similar stories. We've talked about this. Is I was burnt out, I was depressed, I was anxious. I was working as an actor, working in restaurants, and I just remember feeling so like torn apart. I didn't know what direction to go into. And I remember knowing I needed to leave my career as an actor, and my now husband was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know." I'm like sobbing. "I don't know. I just want to make people happy." But in reality, it was really listening to myself and really becoming in tune with what my body was saying. And I already was trained by the beautiful Katie Silcox in my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And I had learned a little bit about Ayurveda and learned a little bit more about Tantra and these deep ancient wisdoms of becoming in tune. And I wanted to study Ayurveda more. And I had no idea where to study because all of the schools weren't necessarily standing out to me. And I get this email randomly. Katie has no idea that I'm looking for an Ayurveda school. She sends me an email. You send me this email. I don't know if you even remember this, but
I remember exactly the email.
yeah, okay, good. You send me an email and you say, hey, I'm doing this school. I have no idea if you're interested, but here we go. And it was like my answers, like my prayers had been answered, and it was the exact place. And I didn't know why, but I just knew you. And I was looking for an Ayurveda school, and nothing had stood out to me before. And I remember I talk about this in calls with people too. Is I remember that right before we started, I actually felt like I was in a pretty good place with myself and my body. And I was like, okay, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what else I'm going to learn because I already feel so good. And woo, Nelly, I had no idea how much would change and how much more intimate I would become and more personal and curious. And, it's like, when there's that pull that takes you towards something, and then you just sign up for it and you do it because you need to do it. I'm seeing nods like on this screen right now, but you need to do it and you're not quite sure why, but your body is saying yes, yes, yes. And then you show up, and it completely changed how I view everything. My relationships, my life, the world that I view, everything that I do in my career now has changed from being in the school with all of these incredible teachers. So I love sharing that story because it's just like, I believe so much into following what sparks you and what pulls you, even if you don't know all the answers.
I'm curious to hear from you, TaKisha. Beyond, that was an amazing advertisement for my program, but like beyond that, I'm genuinely curious about, and thank you, Malia, like no better advertisement than Malia because she's been with me since you guys, Malia was with me in Mexico in a villa. This is hardcore that I rented. I was so ballsy. Now I'm like wise, a little wiser. But I rented a villa in Mexico and brought 15 women down there with me. And we were all basically the same age. We're all 25 and maybe I was 26. And Malia and I had sat on my bed and she sang with this other woman, the most beautiful chants. And it was just goddess sister magic. So that's one of my favorite memories actually of that time. But maybe we'll hear from you, TaKisha. I'm curious about your spiritual journey and how that started and how it led you to where you are now. And maybe tell us a little bit more about I know you do a lot of things and you have a coaching platform of your own outside of Shakti School. So yeah, I'm just curious about that journey for you.
Yes. So first of all, Malia, I love that story. And I see lots of images when people tell stories, and I can tell you're a phenomenal storyteller and was probably an incredible actor. But I was raised in the evangelical church, Southern Baptist, all the things, raised by a pastor. And so when I got to a point in my life where I was starting to sift through, what is it that I believe? What is my truth? What is not? What is something that feels like it should be in my hard drive? And what was something that kind of feels like is just there because? And I started asking a lot of questions and came to a place like many women where I was in a relationship and it felt like I was losing myself because every time my intuition said, do this, everyone else was like, no, you should do that. I'm like, well, no, I don't know. I don't think that that's what I should do. but I had a pattern and a rhythm of being the colder person in the dating scene, like date people for a little bit, like, nope, you're not it. And I would just move on. And I'm now in my wisdom finding that that was in fact quite a gift, because I could be in these beautiful relationships and then know for myself what was for me and what wasn't. And it wasn't until I became a mother, when I was pregnant, and I just realized how much I had become enmeshed with other people's stories and other people's experiences, and a relationship with a God that was not of my understanding. I did not know what the God of my understanding or spirituality or any of that meant, and really wanted to explore for myself what was for me and what wasn't. And so in the space of pregnancy and postpartum and navigating anxiety and depression and all those things, I literally spent days upon days on the floor in tears and crying and asking and praying and seeking and doing all the things. And in the midst of all that, lost a job, separated from my partner, like was a single mom, doing all the things, and felt like, okay, what is happening here? This is how I've come in my life now, having listened to everyone else but myself. And so what would it look like to listen to me? And in believing the bit that I did believe about God at that point was that our deeper wisdom and intuition was the voice of God in essence for me. And so I was like, if I listen to what's in me, then that is me listening to the God that I feel like is there. Can I reach out and touch he, she, they, it, we, right? What would happen to my life? And so I did that, and I really didn't have anything to lose, because I felt like I had lost just about everything but my entire mind. So I played this game of, wouldn't it be great if, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if I was a yoga teacher? Because I just, like, yoga was the one thing that kept me in my body, through anxiety, through depression, through pregnancy, through all the things. And so I was like, well, I'll just sign up for a yoga teacher training and see what happens. And that just kind of opened the door for me to connect to myself. I found that it really was for me. And then I connected with so many other people and found my gifts through that. And through that, I developed a deeper spiritual practice that I wasn't even prepared for. And it brought me back to a place of grounding. And it brought me back to this memory and remembering who I was in my earliest years. And the wisdom, I was an old soul kid, right? And so understanding what that wisdom was and allowing myself to reaccess that bit of myself. So long story, a little less long.
Whew. How many of you out there, raise your hand if you resonated with any of that? I'm like, I want to go to the TaKisha August church on Sunday morning. Yeah. And I mean, you too, Malia, like just such beautiful, powerful women. And yet, I mean, everyone out there in podcast land, raise your hand if you came to yoga because you were dealing with anxiety or depression. I mean, I think it's like an unspoken thing, but nobody does this stuff unless they're struggling. And, that's one of the deepest questions I always have on the journey is like, why me? Not in the victim way, but in a way of like, this is really tough, this journey of being a real human. And yeah, just to know that we're not alone can be really a big part of what this is about. Jackie, how about you? I'm curious about your origin story around spirit life.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you all and to talk with you. And I was thinking back to how I came across Shakti School, and it actually was so I got my yoga certification, and for a while, taught yoga in the community, went to a yoga festival, and was walking around, and someone said, "Are you going to Katie Silcox's class?" And I hadn't heard of your name yet, and then went to your class and was just so inspired and like re-inspired to read your book and then listen to the podcast. And so the thing that drew me into the yoga world was after my mom passed away, it was a way to find community and a way to just deal with emotions and to find my breath and to find my center again. But then that spark of being re-inspired and discovering how Ayurveda lends itself into that realm was so refreshing and made me feel like all of the things that I love could be incorporated into this beautiful grandmother medicine wisdom evolving land, that I just continue to see how it applies to my life, through the anxieties and through, any health concerns. There's always this map of feminine medicine that is just so nourishing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dominique, what about you? Curious. How did it all start? And it doesn't have to be how you met Katie. I mean, my ego loves flattery, but really, I am genuinely curious about. Was there a moment, Dominique, where you kind of like TaKisha? I've had more than one of them where you were kind of like, oh, I have to like shift gears a little bit or shift something.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story. My son and I used to watch a cartoon on Nickelodeon called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's actually a really spiritual cartoon. Talks about the elements and everything like that. I mean, I still watch it on Netflix. Like it's amazing. But there was an episode where the Avatar, he has to learn how to master all of the elements. And he went to a guru, and the guru was teaching him how to balance his chakras. And when the commercial came, my son went to the bathroom and I started bawling because it was the first time I had heard about the chakras, but I knew I was imbalanced. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
Oh my God, I'm getting emotional.
And I was like, I can't believe this cartoon just told me what my problem was. Like, I've been trying to figure this out. Like, I'm numbing myself with reality TV and food, but this is the problem. And it was from that point that my journey began, and started going to yoga class and going to meditation class. And it just opened me up. And I just started questioning everything in life. And what am I doing? And how did I even get here? And I'm hearing Deepak Chopra talk about bliss. And I'm like, what the fuck is bliss, Deepak? Like, and how did I get to 30 something years old? And nobody's ever told me what that is. Like, we have a house. We literally just bought like a white vinyl fence. I have all this stuff in the house and I'm still not happy. What's the problem? And that was the problem. And that just opened me up to a very long journey that eventually landed me to the doors of Shakti School.
It's so funny. I was just like, okay, who should I call on next? And like, there is a spirit that's guiding us all the time, even in the most mundane of little decisions. And it was like, Dominique, it's just Dominique. That's the next woman. And then you tell us this story about the cartoon that makes me think about the way God is with me. And maybe you guys resonate, where it's like we have this idea of God being only this big, powerful, blissful experience. And really that moment of the cartoon opening your eyes into this doorway into ancient Eastern mysticism is the way I have found God really works with me, and also by like mud wrestling me in a closet, but like little winks, little jokes. God is so much more funny than we think, and quirky. And I still like to watch Netflix and lay on the couch and be a lazy woman. And it's like also become a little bit a part of my spiritual practice to like honor the part of me that like is doing that, because you're seeing it too, Dominique. It's like God speaks to me sometimes. This is going to sound so crazy, and let's not take out of context, but like through cheesy TV. And I had never seen The Big Bang Theory. And I started watching it and I realized what a true nerd I am. And in The Big Bang Theory, there's this psychologist that comes on and she's like, well, a lot of the reason why people become actresses and singers and public figures is because of their cared for childhood longings from their parents. And I was just like bawling. And I'm like, oh my God. It's so true. You know, we really can find God in everything. And I think that's really what Tantra, which is sort of the mother umbrella of, beyond just the respectful bowing we do before Hindu Tantra. For me, Tantra is like this bigger thing that honors your individual unique journey as a spiritually sovereign woman or man, right? Whoever, that there's this intimate relationship, and that's what makes it a mystery. Like you watching a cartoon and TaKisha being like, wow, I'm on the bottom of the floor right now, reaching out, and now I have to reach up. And I think that's just like why I believe so fully in the importance of a personal relationship to divinity. Call it whatever you want, call it higher mind, call it, you know, whatever. And so I think a cool thing, maybe we can shift gears a little bit and we'll hear from Laurie maybe. Laurie, I'm taking you on the spot. You didn't have time to think about the answer to this, but, and by the way, they didn't have these questions before, but, and it's fine if the answer is not really, but I've yet to meet anyone in Shakti School where there hasn't been one thing that they've learned around Ayurveda that has had a radical shift on the way they design their morning, they design their food, they design their relationships. And I'm curious if, as you've gone through the journey, Laurie, what has been the one thing that you know, and I don't want to say has healed you or that you were struggling with and now you're not, because like I can't stand that, because I'm the founder of this school and it's like Rogaine, hair for men. I'm the founder, but I'm also a user. You know, it's like I still struggle with things that I struggled with when I first started Shakti School, but who I am as a woman is radically different. And so Laurie, anything you want to say around your own journey in that way?
Yes, thank you for the question. So I'm a recovering perfectionist, total type A overachiever. And upon entering Ayurveda and reading the text, I was like, okay, cool. I've got these frameworks, these very prescriptive methods for, you know, quote unquote healing or being better or being, you know, enlightened, if you will. And what Shakti School and the version of Ayurveda through feminine form and Tantra has enabled me to step into is that spirituality is in every moment of my day. Mm-hmm. It's the approach that I take to it. So it's in preparing my food. It's even scraping my tongue. I have adopted a lot of the Dinacharya, but I also have allowed myself to be touched by the little moments and finding those as spiritual. And I think that's been the most profound for me. And just a shifting of perspective and allowing, as you described Tantra just a moment ago, my whole self to be part of this really spiritual experience.
Mm. And for you, I mean, I've yet to meet a woman that doesn't feel like perfectionism runs through her veins like blood. And I'm curious, I'm in a point in my journey where I hesitate to think that we're ever going to be free from, and I don't think that's the goal, right? The goal is more to be awake to the awareness that can love all of you, right? But I'm curious if your perfectionism has like shifted at all.
No, she's still there. But now I get to love on her now instead of like be controlled by her. Yeah.
Natalie, what's up, girl? So Natalie, I'm curious, you can just flow, woman. I mean, what do you want to say to us? This is Natalie, one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Oh, I love you. I'm so happy to be here and representing Shakti School, because Shakti School has changed my life like completely. And I was looking for a safe haven for like-minded souls. And I guess I'll just tell like a little bit of my story. After high school, I went on tour for 5 years, traveling around the world with Disney on Ice. And I felt like as a professional figure skater, as a professional athlete, there was like so much pressure. So after high school, went on tour, toured the world for 5 years professionally as a figure skater, and there was a lot of pressure there was a lot of comparison with other women. We were weighed every other week. We had 4 pounds up and 4 pounds down. And
Wow.
there was this tension between us, and there was women that was just counting down the days until weigh-ins so they could eat a giant pizza after weigh-ins. And it was almost like comical to me. I would see these women go into the bathroom like right before we get weighed to just see if anything could just come out. And and then there's me, and my performance director tells me like, oh, you're 2 pounds up today. And I was like, if you go to the bathroom and poop, 2 pounds is gone. And little did I know, like, I was about to embark on this spiritual journey that would make me so much more aware. And if I knew what I knew back then, I would have opened his eyes into our hormones, into our womb cycle. Like, wow, like, what if these women are on their periods? That would be completely different. What
Wow.
if we wrote down, like, this woman is bleeding today. She might be a little over. And it just made me have so much compassion for everyone. And I was looking for a place to lean into, to where I could feel this safe container. And I remember you, Katie, saying that when you become an elder, when you stop comparing yourself to other women and stop competing, you become an elder. And that has really stuck with me as I have completed that chapter in my life. And now I'm connecting with other women on the phone through Shakti School, and just telling everyone I know about this school, because it's coming together and having a community where we can teach and learn and be weaving the divinity into our everyday lives through everything. And yeah, I had no idea how much I was interfacing with Vata as well. And coming off of the road, learning so much about routine, dinacharya, I'm like, okay, I have a home now. I can do so many things. So it was kind of overwhelming at first. I'm like, okay, how do I want to structure everything? How do I want to come into my routine? And I think that Ayurveda and how you teach it is not as dogmatic, and we can move into the feminine flow and lean into ourselves and our heart. And like, putting our hand on our heart is one of my favorite practices. And just like, okay, what do I need today? And even if you do like 1 or 2 things, and that's complete. So yeah.
Thank you. It's amazing. So I'm curious, we'll go to Eva. I know you're also a world traveling human. I'm curious, what is your practice? So when we say, so this is a word we throw about in the yoga and meditation and Ayurveda spirituality world, like, oh, my practice. And I think one of the things I'm learning is the way that the deeper you go into your quote practice, the more you realize that there's a bigger demand. And the demand is like, it's on the inhale and on the exhale. And it's on realizing, oh my gosh, this dude is texting me about the car and blah, 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 and how that's annoying. And okay, pause. And like, that emotion, is that level of emotional ramping up really necessary? Just like the weaving of the spiritual into the fabric of everyday life more and more is the practice. And I think women in particular really get this, because especially when we have children, there's not a lot of time. And I don't have physical babies, and I'm sure it's augmented by a 10x, but we have all of these creative babies. That being said, there is real value in carving out space to interface with the divine and yourself. And so, Eva, I'm curious what your spiritual practice looks like today.
Yeah, so I would say, like everybody on the call, my spiritual practice has like really, really evolved, over the years, from, what I would call like pretty intense Christian, like technically like in what most people would call a cult, through to questioning things, leaving that, and now coming to a place where I don't necessarily prescribe to any one religion, but I still have a very spiritual practice, I would say, which is just being in nature. And so my spiritual practice now is literally walking in nature and experiencing it with all five senses, and hugging trees, and like having really like personal relationships with like other living beings, whether it's a tree or a plant that I watch go through its life cycle in the seasons, or this little robin that we call Ruth, who hops into our little house every day and like looks for crumbs in the kitchen. And so yeah, like those little things, I think that's where I really feel the most connected to spirit and the divine, is when I'm like literally in nature and, you know, have my hand on a tree or am interfacing with another being. But then also, like you said, the day to day, something that I think I really took from Shakti School when it comes to this is a willingness and like a trust in my ability to, how do I put this? So like experience the full range of human emotions, if that makes sense. So like, even if I'm in like uncomfortable emotions or like a quote unquote negative experience, like being able to be like open to that and like to trust myself to move through it, right? So bringing that spirituality into, or that connection to spirit, connection to my inner self, that trust in my inner self and my inner knowing, like to every situation, and knowing that I can hold it and process it and use the tools that I learned in Shakti School to like come out on the other side and be okay and alchemize that crap into gold, you know, make it into gold. So, yeah, like you said, it's really like in every moment.
Woman after my own heart. Yeah, alchemy. So, all right, we're gonna, there are a lot of you, and I want to hear from all of you again, because I have a sort of desirous nature, as y'all know. So I have two more questions for each of you. And the first one is, you guys are the ones that talk to the women at the threshold of not just joining our school or not, but usually when people call, as you guys know, and I used to be the only one that was at Shakti School, so I know too, women are on the threshold. They're wanting and longing for a difference, for change, for a shift. Some of them have gone through a divorce, a death, a birth, the change of a job, the desire to change a job. And so just maybe the first thing that comes to you, we'll just hold it as sacred. And since there's a lot of us, maybe like one line, if you could bring it into a succinct line, what do you find to be the central theme of that threshold moment? In other words, what is the longing that women have when you guys get on the calls with these women? Because I mean, our program, honestly, this sounds like an advertisement. This may be somewhat of an advertisement because we want to let people know about the school. But the thing that I see over and over and over again, and why I keep doing this, even though sometimes I'm like, oh my Lord, I would like to do something else at some point, but I just keep doing it, because what I find is that there's this sense, I'll start, okay? There's this sense of relief when someone, a teacher or a group of teachers or a group of women, says, I understand you and your emotions and your hormones and your desires and your sexuality, and like, you're okay. And I understand you're longing for God, and like, that's okay. And so maybe just we'll start again with Malia, one or two lines on just like what you see as kind of a spiritual archaeologist or sociologist of sorts.
I think there is this inner knowing, like we talk about the higher self, the goddess self, that we are completely whole and full and enough. And there's nothing that needs to change, or, you know, we just are. And I think there's this inner knowing that we all know deep down, and it's a remembering that we have that. And the word that kept coming up was, I am enough, I am enough. That's that's the feeling when I talk to women on these calls. It's, am I enough?
Yeah.
There's this question.
Yeah.
And by coming into this environment, it's like, yes, thank you. You're confirming that the thing I knew in my bones before I even needed to come here. But it's that confirmation.
Thank you. Dominique, what do you see?
I'm going to say something that came through me the other day when I was on a call with someone who clearly, deeply, deeply passionate about wanting to combine Western and Eastern medicine. She's a trained nurse. And she had reasons, why it may not be the right time. And the thing that came through me to her was, your Dharma is not going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. You can deny it, you can block it, but some way, somehow, it will find a way to fulfill itself. Now, if you want to take heed and follow that, or if you want to keep blocking it until you're forced, but it's not going to wait. And you're here for a reason. And when you feel so deeply and you feel so passionately, that is your soul communicating to you. It desperately wants to lead you on the path to fulfillment and to contentment, and not surface level, but deep, a deep sense of being fulfilled by fulfilling the thing that you came here to do.
Yeah, very wise. Lori.
Many of the women I speak to are a little bit older, potentially mothers, not unlike myself. And the common thread that I continue to sort of pull is, we are not used to receiving. We're always the givers. We're always the ones to sacrifice or do whatever it takes to make everyone else happy. And so oftentimes it's pulling that woman over the line to the divine feminine embodiment of, receiving for yourself. And knowing that there's belonging on the other side.
Beautiful. Natalie.
Leaning into this container, leaning into this desire that they have, even if they don't know what that desire is, but the desire that drew them into even booking a call. And yeah, whenever I say Shakti School is also school of lady life, it's how to weave how to learn life through this lens of this school of love and science of life and love. And yeah, there's so much more to it, but yeah.
TaKisha, what do you see?
This is one of those things where like everyone's said my answer, right? And also to go off of that, like really wanting to belong to themselves again. And a lot of the women that I've spoken to are kind of on the other side of rebirthing themselves, but they still have this residue of like, where do I belong? How do I bring it all together? How does it all make sense? So just really longing for things to feel cohesive again, but to really belong to themselves in their journey and not just a mother or just a partner or just a fill in the blank.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, Eva, go ahead. I really see that I'm not just these roles.
Yeah, something that's been coming up on a few of the calls that I've had, women wondering if they're worthy, like if they're worthy of this investment. And I would love to just say, like, you are worthy of this investment. And I feel like this is investing in yourself, especially in something like the Shakti School, is like selfish in a way, but then also really selfless, like selfish in like the best way possible, but then also like selfless, because when we invest in ourselves in this way, the growth and the joy that you get from that, and the healing like ripples out into your relationships and your family and the community and the planet. Like all of the women on this call are doing amazing things and helping so many more people because of the investment that they made in themselves. And so when you empower yourself, you absolutely empower every other life that you touch. So
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too, Eva, is, a lot of the people that I talk with, they talk about their journey and this whole concept of how healing isn't linear and how it's not from one thing to the next, but they've gone around in circles. And one of the things that I've talked to several women about is just the need for connection as well. And it's so awesome to share with them about how this is a global school and how, they might have an Ayurveda buddy, but they'll also just have this portal of women showing up each week to feel that support, whether they speak up or whether they just hear something that is the medicine they needed to hear. And so just the connection that they're seeking is something that Shakti School can provide.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to say to all the listeners is that the women that are on here, we have the fortune of having them as our coaches, but these women all have their own businesses, and they're like killer boss, the phrase boss bitches, which people are like, no, I don't like that phrase. And I'm like, but I still do like that phrase. I think it's fun, and so if you resonated with any of the voices on this call today, for sure, they're more than happy to talk to you about Shakti School. And that's what they do in service of our community. But also we're going to have links to them and their websites and who they are beyond the Shakti School, because one of the things that Feminine Form does is it understands the concept of shared power. And right now we're on the Shakti School network. We're about to go on spirit sessions. This is my baby. This is my business. I have the honor of having you guys in the program. And I mean that. I don't know. I don't think I would really want to do it without the setup that we have this year. It just really enables me to do other things like write the next book. And I want you to know how much I appreciate all of you. And I also know how wonderful it is to talk to women and get to hear their stories. And we're also going to provide the links to all of the women that are here and their businesses that are exogenous, that have nothing to do with Shakti School. Follow them on Instagram, get to know them. They are all powerful women in their own right, doing their own thing. And we're going to end in one really fun, special way, guys. And I love how I was like, okay, guys, we're going to do a one-liner. And then you all did like a 29-liner. And that, my loves, is Feminine Form, okay? They're like, what? Didn't hear that? Doing what I want, bitches. Like, that's how we roll here, right? And so I'm going to give you another exercise, all right? You've got a billboard. It's going up tomorrow in your downtown, and the busiest street in your town, and that everybody's going to drive by it. And we're going to move beyond women, because I think that's important, right? We talk about women, we need a space for women, but this is human medicine. And probably 90% of what we do at the Shakti School is for anybody, man or woman, or any of the permutations, right? So there's a billboard that all people are going to see when they drive by tomorrow. And if you, from your most opened, wise heart, could give that billboard one line that you hope people could know as a carrier that you are of Shakti, of power, of God's love, whatever you want to call it, what would that one line be of what you wish I was going to say what you wish all women knew. And another way of saying that is what you probably also need to know the most. I know that's how it works for me. Eva, you look ready. I'm going to go for you first. Your billboard goes up tomorrow. What does it say?
Okay, it says, trust yourself. The wisdom of the universe is inside of you.
Malia?
You're just words. Belonging, remembering humanness, remembering you are human and the earth is your kin.
Dominique?
You have the right to mind-body sovereignty. and you deserve to experience health, wealth, bliss, and pleasure.
Nice. Jackie. Oh, Jackie, I can't hear you yet.
You are not broken.
That one's so good. I love that one. Go ahead, Natalie.
You are whole in your holy body.
Beautiful. Laurie.
It is you. It's your wisdom, your love, your connection to spirit and nature. And how can we not love each other and our earth with such fierce compassion?
All right. You're closing us down, TaKisha.
They were wrong about you. Trust yourself.
They were wrong about you. Can I get you to come over and write that on my arm as a tattoo?
Listen, the copywriting had to come in somewhere.
Yes, girl. Yes, girl. Copyright that. Oh, you guys, this has been so fun and so beautiful. Thank you guys for taking the time, and thank you for your practices. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.